So we've finally finished getting this front section off that old steel box that weighed an absolute ton. I'm not sure what the bore weight was before we started, but it's now only 90 kilos, so it shows you how much weight was likely in that. Not to worry, we will get some weight back on the front. We don't want that bore weight being too light. For now, it's all about getting this thing ready to be registered. So a couple of things we've got to do. We've already pulled the tyres off, as you can see. We're going to treat all this rust on these guards and on this existing deck, so we'll get all that sorted. I've got a rust converter over there. We're going to buy some aluminium floor for the front. In the future, that'll probably come off as we put a bigger canopy back there. But for now, we're just going to floor the whole thing to get it registered. The other thing we're going to do is strip a whole heap of paint off of this drawbar. That's a pretty bad finish. We're going to take it all back and then spray it up nicely, probably with some chassis black or something like that. Pull all our suspension off, give that a good service so it's all ready to go. And then from there, we are going to put a bed liner down on the deck itself. So as all the other prep work continues on the trailer getting ready for registration, yesterday afternoon I popped out and picked up this familiar face, so to speak. This is actually the canopy that I used to run on the single cab patrol that we took to the Gulf back in 2018. So it's come full circle and it's made its way back to me. However, this time it's going to go on the trailer. Now it does have a bit of an internal fit out already. That's all going to get stripped right out. We're going to pull everything out and basically start again. Do have some pretty big plans for it. We're going to cover that in another episode once we get to it, probably once the registration is done, because it's not as important. Now the good thing about this is it does still have all the 12 volt gear that we left in it. So solar panels are still up on the roof, 120 watts up there. We've also got a full red arc set up in there, 2000 watt inverter, Manager 30 battery system. It's all still in there, so pretty stoked about that, because it does, one, save us a lot of money, but two, gives us a really good starting point to get this trailer ready to take it to some remote places. Now, if you've watched episode 1, you will remember that this DO35 hitch here is actually the hitch off of our old trailer. So now I've finally managed to get a new DO35, including one with a park brake, because of the size of this trailer, we are going to need to brake it. Probably not going to rely on chocks alone. So it's time to pull this one off. We're going to leave it off for the time being, sand it all back as we've been doing with the rest of this drawbar, and then we'll paint through that and then do the new one. While we're here, we'll also pull off our arc jockey wheel, because at the moment it's basically just getting showered in dust. May as well get it out of the way. We're sitting up on jack stands at the moment, so we'll get it out of the way, and then once all of this is painted, then it'll be able to go back on. Might give it a clean before then as well. Alright, we're getting down to the business end of things now. So that welding that we had to get done, particularly for this floor to go down, is all finished. Because after we sort of had a bit of a look at it and worked out where the buggy was going to sit predominantly on the trailer most of the time, the front wheel is going to end up basically where we've added these sections in the middle here. So the floor will go on. Once we've painted all that, we'll glue it, we'll rivet it, and then we're going to paint this whole thing in a bed liner so you can't see where it actually changes material. Added a new brace in the front where that was already damaged, so there's a nice strong piece back in there now. A couple more little bits of welding to be done before rego, and then we'll do some more afterwards to make things a little bit better, like add the stabilizer legs and stuff like that. But in the meantime, it's basically finish stripping this last little bit of paint, go through, drill all our holes, and then we're going to paint particularly this front end and some of the bits underneath as well that need it. Before I can go back to stripping all of this old paint off, what we're going to do is pull all of this suspension off. I'm going to replace all the bearings, everything, put all new bearings, and then even though we're going to chuck the independent suspension on later, I'll probably put new bearings in again. It's something that if it fails when you're off-road, it can be the biggest pain in the arse. So I'd rather just keep using fresh bearings rather than taking the risk and using old ones because I don't realistically know how long this suspension will remain on here for. I may as well chuck new bearings on. Okay, so I've just been going through and mocking everything up and pre-drilling everything. So I've pre-drilled for all our clearance lights and stuff down the side, as well as our lights on the back. We've also got our checker plate piece of flooring there, which we've gone through and pre-drilled. The other week I found this set up on Marketplace, which is off some kind of caravan. So Stuart gracefully went and picked it up from Maryborough for me because he was heading up that way anyway, so it worked out really well. Another Marketplace bargain. There is side holders, like side guards for it, for gas bottles. However, they do stick out a long way because it's designed for a caravan that's like 2 odd meters wide in the front. So we may have to modify them, but it will look good once that's done, sitting on the front here. So because we've got to go through and pre-drill everything, we've mocked it all up, set up where it needs to go, and then I've just rolled under basically with the garage creeper and lined out on the bottom of each box. So then we can remove the boxes, lay them on their sides or whatever, and then drill where they've got to be drilled, put it back on, and then we can drill through the steel frame. So as I sort of mentioned before, we will be changing the suspension setup on this trailer to an independent setup. We've already got the arms and stuff sitting over there. However, in the meantime, for registration and everything, I'm just going to put these original solid axles back in. You'll notice there that there's a little bit of surface rust and some of the paint and stuff on them is flaking. So what I'm doing is just taking the flappy disc over it, give it a bit of a clean up, and then we'll respray it with a bit of rust converter, and it'll just keep it looking a bit better in the meantime. So we'll get these leaves back on. A couple of them missing grease nipples, so we'll get some new grease nipples. And then once everything's been painted and stuff like that, then we can go through and chuck new grease on probably at the same time as we put our new bearings in and give them a grease.